It has been a minute. I've been making a lot of changes. There's been a lot of work that I had to do to get this backhand automation working. As you saw earlier, I was, thought I was at the visualization step of getting items shown on the belts. But then as I was working on that, I noticed that the items, or that the item counts were incorrect here and there. And so I decided to do more of a deep dive into the automation system and realized it was not working correctly at all. So I kind of jumped the gun and realized after kind of retrospect looking at my notes that I had actually created the visualizer originally to debug the automation controller not really working correctly. And when I did that, I started getting wrapped up in the visualizer, realized or forgot that the edge controller or the automation controller wasn't working, and just started assuming that it had been working perfectly and the visualizer was broken. So I ended up in a big loop trying to get the visualizer working when in fact it might have been working fine and it was just reflecting invalid backend data. So I ended up ditching the visualizer altogether for now, and focusing entirely on the automation controller. Part of that was what I was trying to avoid in the first place, which is a debug screen, like you can see here. And rather than using a visualizer, and that way I can see the actual numbers for everything. So it's pretty easy to use. I can now highlight, you can see we're kind of at a weird angle here. I need to make that localized, like so that the square is based on what direction your camera is facing rather than being world grid. So that's a good thing to note. So that's really confusing. Maybe I'll go like this so that I'm at the right angle here. So you can see I have them all highlighted now, and in this debug screen we have everything showing. Additionally, we can highlight individual ones, like the edges and that merger or a storage. And if I hit tab, it will turn the hold selection on. And now if I click anything else, it will hold those guys. Additionally, it has a couple modes. So for example, if I were to make a, let's just get rid of this. Demolish, delete. Didn't snag. Additionally, it will it has different modes. So if I have a storage unit, and then I just pass to another storage unit like so, you can see first I'm going to highlight them in tab. Right now it's not showing anything, and if I add, let's say 100 stone, you can see stone is coming out of this storage, which is this guy here. Stone is now traveling along this edge in these windows here, and then it's going into the other storage there. Now those windows are the visualizer. You can see it's the visual micro. It's actually using math and timing of the item progress to interpolate, and interpret which windows there are. The actual backend looks like this. So if I hit 2, you can see I switched up here in the debug to debug backend macro. Let me hit escape so I can show you with the mouse. So you got the visual micro here, and I can go to the backend macro. So this is what the actual backend looks like. If I add 100 silica, you can see it's just a rate of 10 with the utilization of the belt and the amount of time that it's going to take before that before it runs out, or before the storage empties, the buffer empties. So you can see the backend is actually quite a bit more generalized than the way we're eventually going to see it, and that's really what this visualizer helps with, is I can really see that. So for example, I can also hit 3, and this will give me the residuals. I can actually see all the buffers and what each one of the buffers look like: spawn buffer, transit buffer, exit budget, the sum across belts, and then you can also, let me hit 3 to just open this guy up here. You can see we actually can see the total amount of each one of these items, and this includes the buffers. So the buffers were one of the things that caused the big issue in the past, because you can see right here, for example, we have this residual buffer of 0.83. Next time we add metal, inert metal, that buffer is actually going to balance out. One of these coming through will have an exit budget of 17, so that's going to be interpreted as basically it's slightly less than 1. So if I do inert metal, I guess we did inert metal, not inert metal ore. I don't even know where there we go. Inert metal. You can see it is increasing that total on the belt, but it's actually, you can see it's just static 200. The amount on the system is 200 the whole way through. But the amount that we're seeing in here only became 200 when it actually reached the end. So I'm just going to clear these puppies out. We're going to untab so that we can select new ones. And we're going to go to the next example of some of the things we were working with. So I'm going to go to a small storage unit, and I'm going to go to a splitter. So this is one of the things we added are splitters. And splitters will try to evenly distribute items across its outputs. I've made them really modular, so it's going to be really easy for me to make more. I plan on having a compact splitter with the 3 around it, a 2 splitter like this, a 3 and a 5 splitter where it's a 3 with the 2 on the ends. And those will be our default splitters. I might have some vertical splitters or something like that. I've just figured it's so easy to do. I could make it like a category. Other games like Satisfactory typically just have one option, and now that I've designed it in a way that makes it easy to build, I'm rather give as many options as possible. So if I go here to F9 and then select everything, I'm actually going to deselect the edges because we don't really need to see that. And the splitter. Well, all of the splitter. Might as well have that on there. And then I'm going to tab the lockum, and I'm now going to add coal. So coal is now, you can see the residuals. I'm going to turn that off actually. You can see right here, we are getting the coal split amongst the 2. This one ended up with about 48, and this one ended up at 52. If I do it again, it will probably be slightly more even. It's either going to be 1 off or it's going to be equal. It tends to balance out over time, but you can see it is pretty damn close. I guess this one continued to be about 2 off, but that does mean that it ended up adding 50 and 50 for each of them this time. So the splitters work pretty well. Same thing with mergers. Mergers are also really interesting because, as I just said, that generalized rate indicates that, for example, a merger, I'm going to have these 2 storage buildings and we'll put like water and stone or something. In that case, you would have, wood and stone. In that case, you would have 2 rates of, wood and stone, both on a belt, having 50% utilization apiece, and having a rate. So, on this belt, it would be wood and stone, 50% utilization apiece, with an infinite flow. So we don't know when it's going to run out unless it's coming from storage, like here, in which case, let's say 2 seconds, it's going to run out or something like that. We'll know the timeout for both of them. And we'll know that they're both at 10 hertz, so 10 items per second. That's what the macro looks like. So in order for the merger to properly deposit one at a time, we needed to do some math. And that helps us determine what order of item is actually exiting the buffer. I know that's a little bit confusing, but I'm going to select these 3 here, lock them in, and you can see we have these 2 storages. I'm going to add stone to one and coal to the other. Now if I go to here, this 3rd node here, you can see stone and coal are both trickling in, despite the fact that if I went into tab mode here and looked at this edge, we have just a macro rate of, items. So if I go to the micro rate, you can kind of see which item is which, but it really is just a macro rate of 10 items per second with these 2 that are each having 50% utilization. And yet, even with that, it deposited the correct amount of stone and coal into this final storage at the correct rate and used both of them. Again, I'm going to do that with, say, orichalcum and a warming crystal. Warming crystal, I do not believe would go on a belt, but we're not worrying about that right now. You can see that both of them are coming in though at an even rate. And the nice thing is all of this is properly working with deletion now. You can see it did remove it from the edges and everything. And if I go to the game controller inspector, you can also see that the transport edges and stuff are gone. If I created a new Steam Forge, for example, and then did a belt out, it shows them here. So the fact that it removes them from here means all our deletion and management of items is working properly, which was an issue before. On top of that, another fix was the conveyors, or edges in general. If you had a complex network of belts like this, where you have more than one chunk, so that the LOD can chunk out. If you clicked this originally and hit delete, it would delete it from like way over here. So if you had a really long belt and you hit delete, you might unknowingly disconnect it, and that was a problem. The end click, so if I click this and then hit delete, worked fine. And same thing grabbing. Grabbing works fine, but clicking on the actual belt always deleted from one end or the other. So now it splits the center. So if I do that, it deleted the whole thing. But this one here, this segment, you can see it grabbed it, what was one of the centermost hitches in order to split it. So if I connect the whole thing back, go back here, done, and then I click here and hit delete, you can see it deleted this center hitch, and because this hitch over here does not have anything connected, it got rid of both of them. So the split works a lot better now. I might even just call that split. Split at point also, of course, works. So if I click a very specific point and hit delete, it will delete that center point. Naturally, the other two got deleted because they're less than 2 points. So let me quickly select all these, get rid of that. All that works. Also, I do want to mention, excuse this giant panel. I have the giant panel because I need to be able to see all these recipes. Since I have this context menu that automatically can like dynamically put items out and search or buttons out depending on what you're selecting, I just figured I might as well use it. Same thing with the like the smelter and stuff. If I go here and hit recipes or click it, it gives me a bunch of recipes. So that's what that's for. That will be gone eventually. It's not permanent. And also excuse the lo-fi music in the background. The only reason I have that going is because my headset keeps shutting off, timing out. I had it set for never power off, and I've recorded this. This is my third time recording this, and after 45 minutes of saying the same thing over and over again, my voice is getting hoarse. So I decided it's just some royalty-free lo-fi in the background, so maybe it makes it more digestible to watch this boring content. So the next thing I want to show, kind of the last thing really, is a large scale example. So I'm actually going to turn to the side. I'm going to use this icky grid here. And we're going to add the storage unit. Just like the selection, I would like to have a local grid option where you can choose to make the grid follow whatever you're rotating, so that you're in its orientation, as well as a toggle to go back to the world grid, because this is the world grid. This is the actual, if you want every factory to line up and stuff, this is where you want to line it. But anyway, I'm going to place that there, place another storage unit here. So these are both going to have, this one's going to have inert metal, and this one's going to have ferrous metal ore. Both are going to be ores. Then we're going to go to splitters. I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees, and maybe, I don't know, it looks a little bit off. That's why grids would be nice. Place that guy there, and we'll do another splitter. Then we're going to have some smelters. So I'm going to have 2 smelters here. These will both be making inert metal. And I'm going to have 2 more smelters here. These are both going to be making ferrous metal. I'm going to have a splitter here. This will be to split that inert metal guy here. And then we're going to create 4 steam forges. This is going to be for clockwork parts. This is going to be for inert metal plates. This is going to be for integrated plumbing, and this is going to be for structural parts. Finally, we're going to use a merger to merge the structural parts, or the clockwork and the plates, and then we're also going to use another merger to merge the structural parts and plumbing. They could be merged in any way, shape, or form. It really doesn't matter because they're all going into this outfitting station, which happens to have a crystal attachment here. I'm just copying the hitch attachment for now. 2 conveyor hitch attachments, and then on the back side a pipe attachment. Okay, so now we're going to connect the whole thing down the line. So bear with me. So you can see we're splitting the ferrous metal here to connect it to this guy, and then sharing it with this inert metal because the integrated plumbing requires both inert metal and ferrous metal. And connecting that last one in there. The reason we're doing 2 forges per is just to speed up production. There's other ways to speed it up further, but this is just a really low effort factory right here just to test everything out, and it looks like I screwed that up, so I'm gonna demolish both these and put the storages a little bit further back. Okay, so we have this set up now. If I highlight the whole thing, oh my god, that maybe. It's very confusing for me. You can see we have the whole thing selected here with all the mergers and splitters and everything else specifically defined. Make sure this is these don't feel like, that's production, shoot. I've screwed that up. Yeah, unfortunately all the models are the same right now, so the production, the smelters look like the storages, and the splitters and mergers both look the same, and the steam forge looks like the splitters and the mergers, so I accidentally placed more steam forges. So everyone wants some mergers here instead. If I click that, you can see it now does say merger. So let's close that out. Oh, it's too steep. Damn it. Oh, much better. And finally connect those guys. Okay, now if we highlight the whole thing, like this, I think, there we go. Now you have the mergers, your splitters, your production, your storage, everything. So I'm going to do 2. I'm going to turn off residuals and make sure we have hold selection off. Well, actually I'm going to keep it on. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add 1,000 ferrous metal ore, no, inert metal ore. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And here we're going to do the same with ferrous metal ore. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can see now that everything is in fact being sent over the edges. So I'm going to turn off residuals and that, and we're going to untab, and we're going to look at all of these. So we got a splitter here that has ferrous metal ore coming through it, and inert metal ore here. We got couple of these guys here that are not doing anything, and we got 4 guys here that aren't doing anything, as well as this guy, and that's because we haven't selected any recipes yet. So here we got no recipe select. I'm going to hit personnel refuel octopus, and you can see we now have a recipe with those on it. And in fact, I'm going to do that for all of these. Going to select every one of our production buildings, and we're going to lock those guys in. This first one is going to be, of course, our metal sheets, then our clockwork parts, then our integrated plumbing, and then finally structural parts. And you can see we have all the required elements here. So now if I go here and I do inert metal, ferrous metal, you can see we're starting to get progress on everything. See all the items are coming through. They have enough for the recipes. We're actually going to tab out and reselect everything so you can see the entire system running. So I'm going to go down here and we can see all the edges and their macro rates are pulling. Let's look at one of them here. For example, you can see we have this guy has a rate of 3 items per second roughly, with about a 26% max utilization. If I tab 1, you can kind of see how those items would be looking on a belt. We'd be seeing about 2 or 3 items traveling across the belt with a few gaps of 0 items per second in between. And we have an exit budget of 400 across the belt. So if I go here and then selected the whole, oh my god, really need to make that rotate with you. Go to the bottom here. Let's turn off the exit budget. You can see we have, well, it doesn't really like to hold that bottom very well, but you can kind of see we have about 7,000 items some across the belt. So that gives you an indication of kind of how everything is coming together. And if I go here, you can see we have the actual items coming in to the final bit, albeit fairly slowly. So if I do some more inert metal ore and some more ferrous metal ore, hopefully we can kind of flood that system a bit. It's not a very efficient system, that's for sure. In fact, structural parts, I might take this puppy now that we've already kind of established those and just plug it in there with the ugly crossover. That should give us some faster structural parts, I'd imagine. Structural parts. Yeah, we got more than enough structural parts. We're just bottlenecking at the actual production time of them. So we're just going to give this a second. In fact, I can go to the game controller here and let's just take speed and let's increase it to 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then there we go. And go back to 1 speed, and you can see that we do have a personal refuel octopus in here. Not 100% sure what the 0 means. That might be a glitch because I have been able to pull it out when it's like that. But if I do increase that speed, let's do some more ferrous metal ore. And go here again. 15. Oh, integrated plumbing. That makes sense. Try this again. We will do ferrous metal ore, ferrous metal ore, ferrous metal ore, ferrous metal ore. And now we should see some integrated plumbing coming, and we have this progress counting up, and you can see it still says 0. So I'm going to assume if I hit view storage contents, doesn't really do anything. I'm going to assume that the debug is just incorrect there, but you can see the items do properly translate down the line. I think what we were seeing there as far as it not showing in here is that these are not standard production buildings or unit production buildings, and they have a very special type of output buffer because they won't have physical outputs. It's all going to be inputs, and then your units will come out of it, and they'll walk around. As far as things that are going to, let's change our speed back to 1. Oh my god, go to 1. Here we go. If we have a thing where they need to drop off items and then it ends up on the belt, that will be a different type of thing. It might even just be storages. But yeah, you can see everything is working properly on the back end. We have a really comprehensive way to debug it and verify that everything is working properly. So next step is those, item visualizations like we were doing before. And I think the automation controller will finally be wrapped up. I know I've said that a billion times, and there's a chance I'll be saying it quite a bit more. But as of this snapshot, as of this particular change, whatever this is called, pending change sets. Yeah, as of on to visuals, I am on to visuals. So, yay!